What is up, guys and girls? It is me, NKO here. In today's video, we are jumping right into Gambit School. Now, in this episode, we will be talking about the basics, how to improve your Gambit game. Now, these tips will pretty much be discussed in 3 different areas and 3 basic topics. First will be motes, second will be recommended guns, and third will be recommended classes. Let's get right on into it. First and foremost will be the motes section. As we all know, motes are a center point of Gambit. You can't win without them, and majority of the time, they're the reason why you lose games. In Gambit, motes are set into systems of 5. 5 will a small blocker, 10 for a medium blocker, 15 for a large, and 20 for a mega or the Centurion that drains you. I don't really know what it's called. It's only in Game Prime, though, I know that. Now, a very common mistake, I see people, they give really awkward numbers. Like sometimes I'll see people bank 3s or 7s. Don't do that. If you're in a bank, go by the 5 bracket and save yourself some time. Now, if you're an invader and you have like 9, then go for it. You never want to invade with motes. It's a big deal. I see people do it all the time. It's really, really risky because you lose those motes on the other side and then it's a huge loss for your team, potentially. Now, the main thing that I see people do a lot is a solo bank. Solo banking isn't the worst thing, but only in specific situations. You really want to bank with your teammates and get what are called blocker parties. Blocker parties in Gambit Prime will drain your enemy team motes, but in normal Gambit, in the basic Gambit, it will actually block your teammates, block your enemies, from banking motes, which is really, really prime because you can keep on going, keep on throwing more and more in there, and sooner or later there'll be overall enemies over there, and they won't be able to bank motes, and you guys will be on your way to killing your primeval. That's the real strat there. And the other thing that I see a lot, and I really, really want to touch upon this, I'm going to touch upon this in the collective video as well. Don't go for repeated high numbers every single time. Predict the enemy team's movements as best you can. If you see they have 25 in the invade, don't go for 15. Go for 5s. Cut it down so that in the event that they come over and invade and you get killed, you don't lose 15, you only lose 5. You see what I'm saying? You don't lose that huge lead or that huge loss there, and it actually saves you the amount of time and risk that would come with accompanying that. So those are my basic tips for motes. When we touch upon the collector and reaper videos, I will go a little more in depth with that and talk about that stuff. But next thing we're talking about is recommended classes, so let's get on into that too. As a player who doesn't really main any class or character, I really have a hard time finding the class that really fits my needs in Gambit. So I kind of sat down and I just tested all of them over a 3 or 4 day period and figured out what I liked the best. Now, I kind of set up a way here so you guys can get it on screen as well. I went through every single elemental tree and took out every single super that I thought was viable, and I said why. And I want to make sure this is known now. This is all opinion based. There's also some logic here from meta things and things like that, but this is all what I know based on my opinion and my gameplay experience. So do not link to this as the Bible because it is not the Bible at all. It's just my opinion. So first and foremost, let's get right into the hunters. Now the hunters actually have, I think, the most options out of everybody here. Let's first and foremost being the solar tree here. You guys have Blade Barrage. If paired with Shards of Galanor, it is a really, really great option for clearing out clumps of enemies, especially blocker parties. Freaking flawless for that, by the way. 6 shooter, which is my personal favorite, or Way of the Outlaw. It is awesome for invading. You guys have seen my videos. I love invading with 6 shooter. It's probably my favorite thing. In fact, the gameplay footage in the background should show it at least once or twice there that I go nuts with it. And it's just awesome for clearing blocker parties as well as a smaller thing. Not the best thing for primeval damage, which is where Sharpshooter comes in the next tree, and that's better with Celestial Nighthawk, obviously, if you have that, because it does some rad amounts of damage if you get the right amount of stacks going. That's all for solar trees. Let's move into Arc. Now, Arc doesn't have a lot. It's only Way of the Warrior, which is kind of an old meta now. Everybody kind of knows about it. Which, if you pair it with Liar's Handshake, and you have a 1-2 punch shotgun, you can go pretty nuts. But the thing is, it's a double-edged sword here. You're very close to the primeval, which means you'll be lower health at all times, and the fact of the matter is, if someone invades, you're right there in front of the primeval, and you're very weakened. It's an easy shot, you know what I'm saying? So that's something kind of use at your own discretion, own risks there. Now, Void Tree. Void Tree actually has 2 options, and one of which is kind of a 50-50 option, so I'll let you guys decide that when we get to it. But first and foremost is Way of the Trapper, which is pretty much your basic tether. Great for adding boss damage, makes all your boss damage a lot better. And also really, really nice for getting orbs for your teammates if they're invading. If you are a collector-based character or a reaper-based character or even a sentry-based character, and you want them to be able to gen themselves orbs and let the invaders go nuts over there, Top tree tether is one of the better things to run because it allows your teammates to get supers way the hell quicker, and you have your super way the hell quicker as well if you use it correctly. Focus on clumps of ads, and then use it on bosses if needed, but focus that. And it's also really viable, and this is a very, very risky move, but it's like a high risk but high reward thing if you time it right with an invader using their super. Like Titans that are roaming in there with Burning Maul, I see them all the time, they're annoying as hell. You tether it down, they lose their super, your team just goes, hey, what's up, buddy boy, and they kill them. You know, it's a pretty good little system there. I do recommend it if that's what you're into. If you're not really into the aggressive PvP style and more of the neutral to defensive type, that's definitely a good idea to look at. Now, this is what I was talking about. It's kind of iffy in my opinion. I've seen a few players in game that make it work, but I figured I'd put it out there just because I've seen it before. Spectral Blades. Decent in PvE because it can clear out ads, but doesn't really last very long. But in PvP, it's very interesting because you can go invisible. Same thing with all the Night Circuitries, actually. You can go invisible, and you do not show up as a red glowing target on any of the enemy team's radars or on their screens. Very, very useful for sneak attacks or things like guns like 1K that take time to charge up. Freaking a walk in the park with this setup. So definitely, if you're interested in that, play around with it and figure out your own forte with it. Like I said, guys, this is all just my opinion. Let's move on to the Titans now. Now for the Titans, we don't have a whole lot of options, but I've kind of based it more on the PvE side. You do have PvP options, obviously, because every class is viable in some which manner, but Titans are a little more towards the PvE side, because Titans have a really strange place in endgame. So first off, let's talk about the solar trees. Burning Maul, absolutely top tier for boss damage and enemy clearing. Probably one of the best ones in my opinion, just because it's just absolutely nuts. It can be very viable in PvP, especially Gambit Prime, when all your enemies are sitting in one spot and you hit the ground and the Burning Maul goes towards the enemies, it seeks them out and hits them. They're all close enough together you can get a 4-stack kill easily. And get sent back with enough time to go do damage on your boss or whatever enemies are causing you trouble. It's a really, really cool option, and it requires a lot of playing with to get really good with, but it's fun to use, but hard to master, if that makes any sense. Next would be Code of the Fireforged, a great all-around super, and it can really be used in any situation, honestly speaking. If you can arc your hammers correctly, you can use it in PvP. I recommend it more so for PvE just because it's a little bit better. You have Hammer Strike as well, which does buffs your team's damage up a little bit, which is very nice. Be careful using that with Tractor Cannon though, because that can screw that up. But yeah. Now Void, Code of the Commander. This one is really fun. I did this in an off-screen video that I was going to upload, but it didn't really come out the way I wanted it to, so I didn't do it. It is awesome for boss damage because you're literally blocking it off, so nothing can shoot your teammates. You're sitting there, they're shooting through it, getting bonus damage and everything. It's awesome, but I used it in a different way in a video where I was protecting my team with it. Meaning, I was literally finding the invader, and I was looking at him. I was like, yo, I'm blocking my teammates. I'm protecting these boys. Do not come at me, bro. And it was actually really fun because it worked really well. And they can literally do nothing through it unless they break it or you're running your super. And it's a really, really fun thing to do, especially when you derp around. I really recommend it. On the same thing, Code of the Protector, a great PvE panic solution. And if you're an invader looking to siphon motes from the enemy team, if you have the 15 invader notorious invader setup, you can go sit on top of their bank and put a bubble down and take all their motes. It's really funny to watch. I've seen a couple people do it in my gameplay experience. I've never done it myself, but I'm planning on doing it very soon once I get to that point in my game. Currently working on the titles and stuff like that. Now on to Arc. Arc was kind of an iffy thing for me because obviously there's Code of the Juggernaut, which you get more kills and all that, but it doesn't really work that well for PvE, and I wasn't really a fan of it. So I went with my personal favorite, which is Code of the Missile, and that's a ton of fun, especially in Prime. Like I said, if they're all sitting in one spot, dude, and you run up there and you just go missile, it is the most redeeming feeling ever to get a 4-stack kill with a missile. It's so funny to watch, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a funny derp time with your friends or just looking to be a derby boy. It does do okay damage on bosses. I wish they would buff it a little bit on the impact damage, but it does do residual damage, words are hard, and that is always fun too. Now let's move on to the Warlocks. Warlocks actually have a pretty fair amount of options for what you can use. First and foremost, we'll talk about Solar. Tomb of the Sky, greater all around for PvE and PvP, shows more promise while crossing long distances while invading. This is the one that has Icarus Dash. Hella, and I mean hella, fast boys. If you're using a sword, oh my god, you're like a freaking ninja. You're across the map in like less than 2 seconds, and you have 30 seconds to evade. So imagine all that time you have to just go around smack kids. You know, it's really fun to use, and obviously it's really good for ad clearing because your Dawn Blade, and Dawn Blade lasts a pretty long time. I'm wondering whether they're gonna nerf that. Next will be a 2-minute grace, which is as well of Radiance, which obviously is really good for boss damage. The thing is about this, right, and I see this happen so often, and it is such a sad boy hour. I've had a few videos where I've actually showed videos of me killing people doing this. People place the wells really stupidly. If you're going to place a well somewhere where your team isn't going to get sniped from an invader spawn point. It happens so often, and it's such a sad boy hour because you're trying so hard to damage the boss, and you have to race for damage, and then this dude's like, what's up? Truth Rocket kills half your team in one rocket because you left them in the right spot. You got to be really careful with placement about it. It is a double-edged sword, like I said before. Be very smart with it, and it can just maybe work out for your team's benefit. On the Void area, Nova Warp, it's great for PvE enemy clearing, and it has potential for PvP. What I mean by that is if you are skilled enough, you can definitely make it work, and I don't see any reason why you shouldn't try it out. Now onto Slova Bomb. Great for boss damage and ad clearing, especially blocker parties. Absolutely amazing because of the secret orbs, and if timed well, can be absolutely shebang bang awesome at invading. And I have done it a few times, not on recording unfortunately, where I'm just running up and the enemy team's too busy doing damage, and I'm like, alright, I'm blinking around like a freaking ninja, and I just Nova Bomb the entire team. And it is the awesomest feeling because if they try to run, by the way, the orbs just chase after them and kill them. It's literally like the why are you running meme because they have no choice. They're dead. They literally should stop and just die. It sounds stupid, I know, but it's one of the funniest supers to watch because people are constantly running from it and there's no running from it. So I definitely recommend it if you're into a void blinking setup. Now in the Arc Tree, Chaos Reach is actually better for boss damage and blocker clearing, and I've said this here in the video and I'm going to say it out loud one more time. Do not freaking use it on PvP. It is such a sad boy hour if you use it on PvP because here's the thing, right? You're static in the air. There's no shields, there's no moving. So if some sad boy with a sniper rifle is kind of mad you're killing his teammates, looks up, hey, wait a minute, that's a forehead. But bang, you're dead, or just double shot with a rocket, or a truth, or a 1K voices. Whatever makes you angry inside shoots you and kills you pretty easily because you're static and you're not going anywhere. So like I said, use it specifically on boss damage or blocker parties. Do not, and I mean I do not recommend it on PvP. Now, 2-minute conduction, which is the Stormcaller Tree with Ionic Blink, I believe, is great for PvP. Really, really fun to use. You can go around there and clear things, and it's very good for clearing large amount of enemies quickly. These are rank and file enemies, so these are minor enemies, not big enemies, because it will sit there and conduct, and it's a waste of a super. So I recommend using it on small enemies that are like worth the 1 motes, the little small guys, you know what I'm talking about. Go after them. Now, that's all the subclasses I've gone over. Like I said before, every class has viable options. The best tip I can give you pertaining to supers is not to be tethered, pun intended, down to one setup and experiment with what helps you play your best. That is all that matters at the end of the day, is what makes you the best you can be in Gambit. That's the goal of Gambit School. Now let's move on to the weapons, and this is the final part of the video. Now, in the weapons area, there are a lot of options, and I honestly can't name them all, nor rank them without missing or forgetting any and doing justice and not doing justice to some. So here are my tips. Make use of the ammo finder and scavenger perks on your armor. It helps out so much. Now, this is another thing I see people do a lot. You have primary ammo finder and then heavy ammo finder on your armor pieces. That cancels out, guys. You gotta make sure you prioritize one or the other. Special, heavy, primary, whatever. So make sure you set that up. I know it's more of armor-based weapons, but it does affect weapons very, very much. Use whatever you're comfortable with, guys. Like, seriously, even if it makes the enemy team hate you, if you want to be a truth boy, or you want to be a 1K boy, or a sleeper boy, or what gun's annoying, whatever gun's annoying, just do it. I haven't gotten any hate messages personally, but I know people hate me when I drop 27 kill Gambit kill games. 27 kill games in Gambit, words are hard, with Izanagi. I know people hate me for it, but that's what I'm good with, and that's what I like to play with. So don't worry about what other people think. Just play the best you can be. That's the goal of Gambit School, is improving your skill. And following up with that is having a weapon set that allows you to be a one-man armory, so you don't even find yourself relying on teammates. I see this happening a lot, where someone will be like, they're going to be running an AR, an SMG, and tractor cannon, or a grenade launcher. You don't want to run that, guys. You want to be able to handle whatever comes by yourself. You don't want to be like, yo, I need a teammate in aisle 5 to snipe this boy because he's kind of coming at me a little bit of a scary face hole. Don't do that, dude. Pull out a sniper or a shotty or whatever gun you have and kill that dude yourself. Become a solo player. I don't rely on my teammates at all. Trust me when I say this. Teammates are very useful in Gambit. And it's part of why I made this series, because I want people to get better at Gambit so I have better teammates. But teammates are not what matters the most at the end of the day. What matters the most is your skill. And if your skill's enough to pick up your team, that's all that matters sometimes. There are games where I've carried so hard that my back literally broke in 18 different places and I have more vertebrae now than I ever did before, but I still played and I still enjoyed myself. Because I played relying on myself rather than my teammates' skill sets. When you play your best, your teammates usually follow and play their best as well. I joined up with a 4-stack a few times today, and they invited me and they're like, yo, can you come play with us as a 3-stack or a 4-stack? And I'm like, yo, sure. Played with them, and I had a bunch of great games, and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm done. And I backed out, and I wanted to do my own thing again. 4-stacks don't make the dream work all the time, guys. So play however you play your best, and just focus on that, and make that solo player skill perfect, so that when you get in a team, you're even better. And then just keep working on it like a stepping stone. Every single time you get into another game with another set of people, figure out what they're doing, figure out their playing styles, figure out where they're going to go, what they're going to do, and just get better at it. That's how Gambit is. And honestly, guys, that's all I gotta say in this video. In the next few episodes, we'll dive into each role and go more in depth with them with Sentry, Invader, Reaper, and Collector. And I'll talk about the perks and how to recommend to use them and play styles that accompany these places. And honestly, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun making this episode. I was really excited. You can tell by my tone of voice in some of these parts. Sorry if I talked a little fast. I just didn't want to make this video 2 hours long because it really could be 2 hours long if I wanted it to be. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please drop a like and a comment down below. And I really appreciate if you guys would drop a comment saying made it to the end, hashtag made it to the end at the end of the video in the comment section, because it makes me really happy to see people making it to the end of my videos, because my videos are kind of long sometimes. And if you were new here on the channel and you saw me off of Twitter or Discord or whatever, please consider subscribing or check out some other videos and think about it from then. I really appreciate all the support you guys give me, guys. We are growing slowly but surely, and I'm having a ton of fun while doing this stuff, guys. I will see you guys in the next video tomorrow, Friday. Peace.